AI is not your manager. AI becomes the judgment-free person that you can just riff with to come to those solutions.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters. Fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. On today's episode, in startups, AI is the default, but in higher ed, it's still a pilot project. Kyle James is back for round 2 to talk about the cultural delta, what higher ed can learn from startup agility, experimentation, and bias for action. Because it's not just about adopting AI tools, it's about rethinking how we build, test, and lead. Kyle, no introduction needed. Listeners, I'm sure, ate up the episode last week and they can't wait to hear from you again. Welcome back to the Pulse. What's new?
Let's go. Round 2.
Let's
go.
So
much stuff to talk about.
I know. We're just going to dive right in because literally, folks, when we were recording the last episode, I looked up. I was like, oh, maybe it's been 7 or 8 minutes. No, it had been 20 minutes. That is how, Kyle, you were just dropping gold, and it was so much fun that I knew we had to have you back. So thank you. Thank you for making more time to.
Absolutely. Love conversations like this.
Amazing. All right. So let's just go right into startup culture. Because as we established last week, you've been a part of or advised many different startups. So, and I've been a part of startups too. And we know that there's this, this done versus perfect mentality at Element 451. We would say progress before perfection, right? So this idea of failing fast and iterating and MVPs, right? Getting the product out before it is perfect. That all enables a workforce culture that embraces faster AI adoption, in my opinion. So I'm curious, let's just start here. What would it look like for higher ed to borrow that mindset?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like you said, is kind of that fail fast. And I've seen this other aspect that started out as kind of a software mentality of agile, Kanban, sprints. There's different ways that kind of people describe it. There's different forms of it. But it is this idea that, all right, what are we going to accomplish this week or this 2 weeks or this month? And everybody's allocated points and they go out and do it. The thing about higher ed that I remember, and I'm sure it's not changed too much, is everything thinks about cycles as far as semesters, right?
Yes.
Semester's a long time when you think about it. 6 months, maybe 3 or 4 months, depending on the school, if you do three semesters a year. But if those are your cycles, you're not adopting but maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year. Where if you're doing sprints in weeks, that's 52 of them a year. And a lot of the other big core element of doing these kind of sprints or these cycles is you have kind of a grooming, planning session of what we're going to do. And then at the end of every one, it's kind of a lessons learned or a retro, right? Where people talk about what did we learn? What did we accomplish? What do we need to accomplish next? And what went well and what didn't? And I don't remember higher ed doing a very good job of calling out its own warts, right? And you have to do that to grow. So, the more you could kind of have strong opinions loosely held, this is what we want to do. This is what I did. This is where I screwed up. Because kind of failing fast, Mallory, do you learn more stuff when you win or you lose?
Gosh, I have constantly learned more things from my failures and my losses over and over again, right? We pat ourselves on the back when we win.
Yeah. But losing is a really strong motivator and tool too. And so many people are afraid to lose. And I think that's probably why people like you or I who have got that generalist mentality have kind of really learned. It's I'm okay to fail. I just don't want to keep failing.
Let me stop you though. Your work environment has to create psychological safety.
That's fair.
for you to feel like you can fail. And I have worked places that did not create psychological safety, and therefore I was afraid of failing.
So okay, there are ways to fail, but also succeed. And let me kind of explain that a little bit. The way that this is a very scientific method, literally, like you don't go out and do a task or a project without a hypothesis. This is what I think's going to happen. This is what I hope comes out of this. And if you do that, you could still succeed or fail, but you're learning something from it, right? Like, hey, we want to run this marketing campaign, or we want to bring in 100 student visitors to campus this week. Great. What are the steps we're going to do that? And that's the goal. Like, people have these kind of goals all the time. Like, but then come back at the end, like, did we do it or did we not? What worked and what didn't? Okay, let's do more of the things that worked. Let's do less of the things that didn't, and identify these things that didn't work. Guess what those were? Those were failures. And that's okay to call it that. But you have to, like, be okay accepting that.
Don't you think AI now has a role in helping us not necessarily uncover the failures, but identify the alternatives for next time, right? Because we don't want to just do the same thing we did. We know what the outcome was. So where might AI fit into this new, retro after the event has happened in your example of we wanted to bring 100 students to campus?
Yeah, I mean, could be very good at helping you plan, but also helping you probably debrief, right? Like when you're planning something, it's not going to necessarily perfectly know your scenario, but you can go out, hey, I'm trying to run this sort of event with this kind of things, and I want to accomplish these things. Like, put me together a plan of what that might look like. And then tweak it and edit it, but I guarantee it's going to come up with ideas that you didn't think of. And then you can come back at the end of that same thread, that same conversation, like, all right, here's what we did. Here's what happened. What do you think about it? Mm-hmm. And we can just ask those kind of questions. I think that's where the real mindset has to shift of AI is it could be kind of a co-partner there, right? Like
a judgment-free co-partner,
yes.
for the record.
Yes.
It's not your manager that you need to be like, maybe a little, ooh, I don't know if I like to admit I failed. Like if you're that person, like AI is not your manager. AI becomes the judgment-free person that you can just riff with to come to those solutions. And then you take that to your manager and you say, hey, this is where we fell short, but I've uncovered X, Y, and Z, or these are the next steps for next time. And you can use AI to iterate on all of that before you even get into the room where you have to say, hey, like, let's look at what went right, what went wrong.
Yeah. And I'll even, and those that know, I've talked to a lot of people recently about why is AI always so friendly and nice? Like you could ask it like whatever, and whatever it gives you, it's going to deliver it like with a glass half full, very positive spin on it. And like sometimes you're like, no, be harder, be tougher on me. Mm-hmm. So if you're worried about that, it's already going to spin to you how this was a positive success and not a failure anyway. I almost worry they write these things too friendly and too nice. Like people need to get the boxing gloves out and beat up a little bit. They say this a lot in early stage startup conversations. They call it hand-to-hand combat because, if in those early stages, either you figure this out and you take the next steps forward or literally the company dies. So they think about it in those, and probably aggressive, bloody terms, but I think, the concept still follows through. And, that's the entrepreneurial startup. Like it is still very, very, and it's especially hard right now because money's not free anymore. And you're seeing a lot of tightening of belts and a lot of, even the tech companies are scared about what's going on with AI. You're hearing a lot more conversations now about the next batch of unicorns. And for those that don't know, a unicorn is defined as a company that gets to $1 billion valuation. The next batch of unicorns are like, can we make a unicorn with 10 people, with 20 people?
I bet they can.
It's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah. It's like we were saying last week that they are managing their team of AI agents now. And that is augmenting what, anywhere from 5 to 25 humans could have done in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're building them with that kind of stuff in mind.
We talked a bit about like low code and no code last week. And so I want to circle back to that because there's a lot of AI tools gaining traction in this area. And I'll admit, this is one of the things that I know a lot less about, but I know you know a lot about it. So I want you to bring your knowledge to the pod. The no code, low code AI tools like are helping us marketers out quite a bit when it comes to building and testing new ideas. And it seems like, right, we identified this last week too, like there's IT bottlenecks that usually exist, especially within our colleges and universities. And there's opportunity here to help leapfrog that. But at the same time, I feel like if I had a CIO sitting on this podcast with us, we would be hearing some concerns and fear around putting this into the hands of, truly anybody. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Riff with me on this a little bit, Kyle.
I've got two stories that kind of share one side of the spectrum, and we should definitely close on like the negatives of it. But one is I've got a buddy who's a product manager at a small company, and product manager, generalist, right? They write the scope of works, they write the product requirement docs, all of these kind of things for the engineering team to build. Well, with these tools now, you could feed those same documents that you're writing with AI into tools like Cursor or Windsurf. It writes the code for you. And he's literally come to his engineering team with the prototype built. He didn't code. He just knows how to use some of these other tools that sit on top of it. So you're seeing this, like what we typically taught of low code tools like Appian, which basically you build workflows and it would build modules for you. Think of like early stage, like Excel macros from the past, right? You're building these macros inside of Excel that almost feel like you build a little software tool. Well, now these things are coming so much more because AI at its basic language, and this might blow your mind, it speaks in code, right? Like if you ask it to perform a math function, it basically goes off and tries to write the Python function to solve that thing. And then it spits it back out in English to us.
Yeah.
So it's already doing that anyway. So if we're he's using it, and then now he just recently built a little app for a hackathon where it's basically Pokemon Go, but with trees and flowers and plant life flora.
Sign me up.
You go take pictures of something, and I'll make sure we get the link into the video, at least into the show notes of something, and then it's like, he was showing video of his daughter going out and taking a picture of this flower. It'd tell him what the flower was, it'd give him points for finding it, and then give him a whole detailed information of it. All this is AI generated in the back end. The whole code for the app was built AI. And his daughter is learning about plants, around their house and stuff. And getting points and badges and all of the like Foursquareization from gamification.
Oh my
from back
gosh,
in the day.
Throwback to Foursquare.
Yeah.
I think when we were trapezing around Boston 20 years ago, we were checking in everywhere on Foursquare.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you can go do it and learn about all the trees and plants and flowers.
That's too cool.
And another story I've got is a friend, somebody, Kate Reed, I'll call her out by name because I just recently interviewed her for my Builder Origin Story podcast, who talks a lot. She's a career customer service person in B2B world, B2B SaaS. And now she's writing agents. She's like, I'm not low code, I'm no code. And she specifically called out, which I thought was very interesting, like the tech world, especially software engineers and all, is so male heavy. It's 80% of software engineers are male. She's like, I don't know how to write code, but I know how to write scopes of work. I know how to write, the things that I'm trying to accomplish. And AI is doing this for me. And she's like, the empowerment she feels from being able to like level the playing field through these tools, and now she's building all these agents where previously you'd go and go fill out a form and get a white paper, an ebook. You answer a couple more questions, this thing, it's generating a custom ebook for you based on your wants and needs with all these parameters and data that she's pulled together in the back end. And like it's empowered her to go start her own company. And she's got a number of clients like service and customer success teams in organizations now and building these tools for them. So yeah, like low code was a thing, but now you don't need any code experience. You just need time and a little bit of like ability to like go fail a little bit trying to figure this stuff out. But it's all possible now. I wish I had more time for it, honestly, to like build those things. I will say the ones that I've built, like I'm amazed how I'm able to write the product requirement doc, the scope of work, and work with AI to generate, low fidelity wireframes, design mock-ups. Like I tell it, we want to use this framework, software framework, and it'll say, do you want me to give you the stub code for it? So I can hand off the stub code to the engineering team now. So it's definitely breaking down those barriers, which we talked about last week. Software engineers aren't the bottlenecks anymore. The bottleneck is the people that come up with the creative ideas at things that need to be built.
And I feel like there's never a lack of creative ideas. There's just always a lack of time to go and do them. And so this is like maybe the big unlock, especially knowing a lot of listeners here are in marketing communication roles. Like there's never enough time in the day to execute on all the amazing creative ideas from our teams. But gosh, just your example of that custom ebook, I'm like thinking like I've got my old VP of marketing hat on and I'm like, wow, like, we always talk about how AI can help with personalization, but there it is right there at scale. Like I'm imagining myself right now as VP of marketing at Element 451 and how we had, maybe 3 or 4 very clear personas. And if somebody could have just inputted in some basic PII about them, and I could have spit out just this fully beautiful, customized, download. Wow. Like that would have saved me and my team so much time. And now you're giving someone something that really speaks to their challenges and the things that they're thinking about, whatever that thing might be. I can totally see higher ed extrapolating some of these ideas.
I'll give you another example of that to go look at. Sound GTM. It's a friend of mine, Jen Steele, who, showing my age again, 15 years ago, I'm still convinced the thing that made HubSpot work was Website Grader. If you remember that tool back in the day.
I do remember that tool. I used that tool.
Everybody used Website Grader
Yes.
back in the day. Well, she's taken that whole concept, and she doesn't write code either, but through this agentic models has built these tools that, to your point, give it a couple of different prompts. And her company runs and helps build out affiliate marketing programs for companies. So it'll write the whole playbook or blueprint or help you identify your personas from a couple of different prompts and data that you uploaded in this and give you customized output, white papers, ebooks, strategies, plans. She's got a whole page of these things built out at this point.
That's incredible. Are there any other, ways that you're seeing startups rethink personalization or user experience?
We should talk about translation.
Okay, let's talk about it.
AI is the Babelfish now, if you remember the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference there. But yeah, there are companies, because AI can translate literally in seconds now, especially if you're going international and you're trying to localize stuff. That used to always be an afterthought, because to localize and go, you'd have to write the contracts, you'd have to write the product, you'd have to write all of your documentation, all of your onboarding, all of your support docs. You could just do that in minutes now with regional dialect included in it. And these tools all work on kind of like a API token pay-as-you-go kind of model, so they're not even that expensive. But that's really been an unlock that depending on if you're trying to target students in a specific country or Spanish or whatever, you can rewrite all of your content material relatively quickly and cleanly in a way where you're not hiring full teams or people to teams that rewrite all of these things. It's wild. And some of it's even doing it in real time where I'll put it in the show notes, the company that is actually taking paid search ads, PPC ads, and can in real time rewrite images to different languages.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shit. Oh, wow. The images. Okay.
So if you've got like, pretend like it's a picture of a billboard, but you've got some sort of copy that you want to say to your audience. And if you know that you want to rewrite that to target different dialects or Spanish or French or whatever, it could rewrite all that for you in real time.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, so a couple weeks ago, Patricia Tozzi was on The Pulse, and we were talking about some of the really significant challenges in international recruitment right now. It's not the friendliest time for a student from overseas to come to the U.S., and so a lot of schools are struggling here. And one of the things that she brought up in that episode was that Chinese students, their parents play such a big role in their decision-making process, both at the undergrad and graduate levels. And so the important thing when you're looking to recruit those Chinese students is that you have stuff translated into Mandarin, not just for them, but for their family too. And, I remember when I worked on a campus, we had one person in international admissions, right? We had 15 in domestic, one in international, and she didn't speak Mandarin. Okay, so here is such a clear use case where AI can elevate our teams so fast.
Yeah. Oh, and I 100% understand, because they're full value students, right? They pull full tuition. Mm-hmm. So absolutely important to be able to still get them on board.
Kyle, if you could challenge higher ed leaders listening to this episode to run one AI experiment in the next 30 days, what would you pick and why?
You just got to start doing it. Let's go. ChatGPT's free. Claude's free. Just keep ChatGPT's free. They're all 95% the same. It just have little differences. Go get a free account. Connect it with your Google. You don't have to pay. If you want to, it's like $20 a month. But just start using it on a daily basis. And any time that you would go to Google and ask it a question, Google's already given you AI results. Go try to use one of these other ones. And everybody's like, I can't write prompts. I can't be a prompt writer. Well, you can't explain to somebody what you want them to do. I've always said, if you could write a good scope of work, and what professional can't explicitly dictate exactly what they want done, that is all prompt writing is. The pro tip I'll throw on top of that is what I always do when I send my prompt is the last part of it is like, what clarification questions or details are not clear? Please ask before starting. And then it gives you a whole list of follow-up questions. Once you've answered that, 95% of the time, the result I get back is 95% of the way there. Because you've already asked all those uncertainty pieces and answered them. So just start using it. My wife, when she first started getting into it, she's like, how am I going to use this? Like, Heather, just go start asking a question. She's a business manager for a small IT security firm here and was having some questions about IRS stuff. I said, just go ask it. She's like, oh my God, it answered my whole question. It even drafted up the email for me to send to the IRS. And it took one interaction like that for her and she was sold. And now she's like, all right, I'm going to keep asking it questions. And that right there is why I think generalists will win. Right? You have a problem with the car, just go start explaining what's happening and it'll tell you what are some common things to diagnose it with.
The non-work examples have been my favorite examples of AI lately. I'm just looking at my chat list with ChatGPT and it's things like, hotel recommendations in Charlotte, North Carolina, because P.S. I had to sleep in an airport one night recently. There were no hotels available despite the great recommendations ChatGPT gave me, but I digress. My AirPods were, giving me some white noise and ChatGPT told me how to fix it. I asked it like a very silly question about whether or not upgrading my flight to first class was worth it. And it was probably the most impressive breakdown down to the scent of, the analysis of the type of airplane I was on and what I paid and all. Long story short, ChatGPT was like, you'd be foolish not to because it's such a good deal. So I did, it's these non-work use cases that I think folks who are still maybe on the fence, and there are still plenty of folks on the fence, right? If you're one of those people, go just experiment with some of those lower barrier to entry things, right? Just start asking it instead of Google. Just go to an LLM and give it a try.
I'll give you a perfect example. I've got a thread that is literally just clean up my email. Right?
Nice.
I'll draft an email up and I don't even have to tell it what I want anymore. I just copy paste emails. Like, here's a cleaned up version of your email. Because, I write like a redneck, like I sound. So with running sentences everywhere, but it cleans it up and polishes it and makes it sound, like a Southern gentleman that I'm aspiring to be.
Of course. So you aspire to be, Kyle.
So it's getting me there,
That's amazing. And you know what? I look up and once again, 20 minutes have just flown right by. Truly, if I did not already have a guest next week, I'd be like, here we go, part 3. But no, Kyle, you have already been so generous with your time. I am really, really grateful. It was really nice to reconnect with you. But also I just feel like You have just shared so many great stories and examples. We'll get all the stuff you mentioned in today's episode into the show notes for you listeners. I'll ask you one more time. Any parting thoughts, Kyle?
Just do it. Here's the thing. Here's the reality. I do not know where this goes long term, but I know there's definitely a gap between those that are using it and doing things and those that aren't. And the ones
it's getting bigger.
And it's getting bigger. And you and I were talking about this before the call started, or before the show started. Like, some of it, we're starting to feel imposter syndrome because we're able to do things that we didn't do before. I'm not a world-class writer, but I'm now producing world-class reports now because I'm orchestrating what I wanted to say and putting the story, but really, polishing it around the edges. It's doing that stuff. It's you just have to start using it and trying stuff. And there is no right or wrong. I guarantee you the way that I use it is different than the way Mallory uses it. And you know what? That's okay.
Yes. We're different maestros, and that's okay.
Yeah, there is no right or wrong.
And that's it. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed these last 2 interviews with Kyle. I know I sure have, and we will catch you next week on The Pulse. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.